This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com. Despite trying our best to start travelling again due to ever-changing restrictions, we are having to do most of our podcasts via Zoom. Unfortunately, that means the quality isn't always as good as we would like. So just a warning, it's not because both Robin and Tom are super popular at 10 o'clock in the morning that they were getting notifications left, right and centre. Tier 2 for London had just been announced. So if the pinging iPhones drive you mad, blame Boris, not us. Thanks for listening to Grilled, a podcast by the Staff Canteen featuring the best chefs every week. You can listen to every episode, just simply search for us where you normally get your podcasts. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen, and in this episode I'm talking to Tom Aikens and Robin Gill. Welcome to Grilled.
Hooray, morning.
Thanks for having us.
Last night was the first of your guest chef series, Tom. How did that go? Is it all good? Did it all go to plan?
Very nice. Yes, it was good fun. We had a full room, socially distanced tables and all. So no, it was good. Always nice to get one under the belt, and it was lovely to have Robin in the kitchen, first one, and it all went very smooth. And nice to see, Robin and his lovely dishes that he was cooking. So yeah, it was good fun. The lads enjoyed it as well. All the customers had a great time. Lots of good feedback. So yeah, great night.
Brilliant, good to hear. And obviously you're still friends, because this would be an awkward podcast this morning otherwise.
It's our chance to have a go at each other now, you know.
So before we talk more about the guest chef nights that you've got planned and the charity that you're donating some of the money to from those, just a couple of quick questions so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better, and so I can get you to relax. So Robin, I'm going to start with you. So if you had to choose to get a bollocking, who would it be? Gordon Ramsay mid-service or your wife because you turned up drunk and late?
Oh, that's very tough. I think I'd choose Gordon Ramsay. He's a pussycat compared to my wife.
What about if you had to switch it around, so you're going to get a bollocking of your wife mid-service? Yeah. And Gordon was going to tell you off for being drunk and late.
Happen. She does send things back, so yeah.
And what about you? Which would you choose?
It's very difficult, actually. Listen, I'd probably go for my wife. So I like to be tortured by the wife occasionally,
Great answer. And another question. So fill in the blank. This year I was going to blank. Coronavirus ruined my plans. Tom, let's start with you.
Listen, oh Lord. Well, this year I was going to be opening a restaurant in Jakarta, and that didn't happen. So until next year.
Yeah. Okay. Robin, what about you?
I had loads of plans. I just turned 40 this year, and I had lots of little trips planned. And the biggest one was going to be to Japan, and that got canned. And it was something I've been looking forward to do for years. So that's the one thing that I was a little bit disappointed about. But what can you do?
No, pesky coronavirus. It's ruined everything, hasn't it? So, okay, perfect. So, guest chef nights. Tom, why did you want to do them? Why now? Why did you think, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I think just because of what's been happening, with obviously the C word, COVID, is that it's nice, to get, I think, chefs together and to kind of have them over as a special treat for not only for guests but also my chefs as well. And it's nice to work alongside very well respected chefs in the industry and to work with them on doing these special evenings. And customers always love them, and I think they're a fun thing to do, and it's always nice things to support other people in the industry in terms of doing special events and things, and people really love those. And because also I was doing it for a charity as well, only a payment away, or some of the proceeds were going towards them. And that was a charity that I started supporting in the actual lockdown, because I think, I had plenty of times, on my hands to kind of do things, and I wanted to try and sort of support a charity. And there was one, that really sort of stuck to home, so to speak, was a charity that was helping the homeless and people that through part of it, obviously through COVID as well, where people had been obviously lost their jobs or couldn't support themselves anymore because, they lost their job and then lost their home. And, in terms of what they've been doing, really sounded amazing to me. And so I sort of got in touch with them and said, what can I do to help? And that's when I first started doing, the 5-minute challenge, which was a fun thing to do, and getting lots of chefs, to do that and to take part of it. Was quite hilarious in terms of what was pulled off and what wasn't pulled off. And so I think, the whole part of COVID, I think, as well, has been a learning experience for a lot of us in terms of business wise, but also just to have time, to reflect, time on your hand, time to see family, time to have a bit of, normality, if there can be such a word, in a crazy time that we're in.
Yeah. And Robin, obviously you were the opening act. So how was that?
Oh, no pressure there then. No, no, it was really good. It's a beautiful building. It really feels like you're being invited into somebody's home. Like, I think it was originally someone's house, and it's over a number of stories, but obviously Tom has all the kit you want as well in his dream kitchen, and all the team are amazing. I know Seamus from before. Seamus actually worked with me briefly when I had a restaurant, so it was really nice to meet his team and get back in the kitchen with Seamus, who's the head chef of Muse as well. So it was really nice. And what's lovely is that it's an open kitchen, both on the ground floor and the second floor. So you really get an opportunity to kind of talk to the guests about what you're doing, and they're always super keen and asking lots of questions. The only bummer is having to wear a face mask. Since they've kind of put that into place, you kind of struggle to communicate. You feel a bit self-conscious, but no, you forget about it after a while. So it was a fantastic experience, really cool.
Yeah, and it's just something I hadn't really thought about, is that it must make things quite difficult having a face mask in the kitchen, because you just can't, there's no expression, you can't see anything, can you? So
the only other thing as well is when, it also makes it very, painful in terms of tasting stuff as well all the time when you've got customers there, and trying to, taste food is pretty impossible. So we obviously, make sure everything tastes as it should before, but like sometimes during service, you actually want to taste things just to make sure that it's okay. But you just don't, you just can't keep moving and putting the spoon and everything. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. How many times have you put the spoon into the mask?
I've done it.
You asked that. I've been close, but just then I kind of like, oh shit, I got the mask on.
I did it last week. I did it last Sunday. In the new thing we launched, we had a huge big Sunday lunch at the end of a very long week. I was exhausted, because chefs do that normally. If you're in the middle of a service, you're constantly picking up spoons and tasting things as you're working. And yeah, I didn't realize I had the mask on, and I went full force into my face.
What was it?
What was it? It was like, we have this grains dish. So it was pretty bad. We have this grains dish with an egg. And so it was like sweet corn and everything like that. So it probably looked like I just puked on myself. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So for people that are listening and that don't know, how do you two know each other? How did you first meet?
Well, listen, I think with all, chefs, we all get to know each other just through the community. And I've been to, Robin's restaurants in Clapham, quite a few times, and just generally through there. And then Robin's, one of Robin's sort of, I guess, what position is Dean now, Robin?
I'm pretty much like a partner and exec chef and right-hand man and most things, but he's at the moment he's overseeing Derby's.
Yeah. So Dean, who works with Robin now, used to work with me at Tom Aikens, who's a lovely guy, great chef. So there's obviously some of my chefs have worked with me and now working with Rob and Dean. So that's also another sort of link to each other as well.
Yeah. Okay. So the guest chef nights. Obviously, you've got how many of those have you got coming up? Because I know you're working with Alex. Is that right? Yeah, coming up.
Alex,
yeah.
Which is in November. So yeah, and then after that we'll probably do another one sort of after Christmas, not leave out December just because it's December. And it'll be nice to do one in January when obviously it's probably gonna be less busy, and unless there's another lovely lockdown or anything like that, then we'll do another one in January.
God, don't say that. I don't think I can cope with another full lockdown.
No.
Okay, so well, that kind of leads on to the next question, which was the 10 p.m. curfew moving into tier 2. How is that impacting on restaurants and hospitality in London?
Okay, well, this is going to dramatically affect. I mean, just even. I mean, there you go. There's a perfect example of first how it affects. People get confused. People really don't really understand. We're already struggling with having to police people to wear masks in restaurants, and then if we talk about sort of what's just happened with the curfew, and then everyone having to wear masks, kind of going to the bathroom and coming back in, and it's caused a lot of confusion and a lot of distress on our staff, because our staff have now had to kind of deal with customers and try and tell them what they should and shouldn't do. And that's not hospitality. You know what I mean? We want to welcome, I kind of said the other day, we want to welcome people into the restaurants to have a good time. We're in hospitality, not hospitals. Do you know what I mean? And people are out to enjoy. We do all of the things to keep everyone safe. Everyone's doing the temperature recordings and checks. And we have to wear the masks that we are. We're sticking to the 10 p.m. curfew, the tables of 6, the kind of social distancing in the restaurant, getting rid of tables, all that kind of stuff. So we've done all of that. But yet, what happens is, what has happened is customers are getting confused, and they're also getting then very frustrated, and they're taking it out on our team. So I'm sure when I say this, a lot of other people in restaurants can kind of understand what I'm saying, is that, you get guests who are like upset because they want to come out and forget about things. And then they've got a waiter or waitress just doing their job saying, please, do you mind just wearing your mask? Or can I take your details? Or whatever, all the stuff they have to do. And customers are getting irritated by it, and they take it out on the team. So that's the first thing that's happened. So now as things change and we don't understand what's going on, there's confusion. So when the next set of rules come out, which I'm not even aware of, we'll have to filter that down to our team. It's changed again. That means our teams are going to get confused, and guests will get confused. And it's having a knock-on effect where customers are just not confident in going out anymore. So naturally, restaurants are going to get quieter, which will result in job loss and insecurity and everything. And especially when you look at the stats of where the cases are coming from coronavirus, it's restaurants is like 2 or 3%. You know what I mean? It's very frustrating. And I think if now it's only one household can go out, well, how do we police that? Do we have to police it? Do we have to kind of interrogate customers when they come in and say, are you all part of the same household? Can I check? Do you know what I mean? It's like, It's just, I don't know. We just have to crack on, in my mind, and be as safe as possible, but we just have to move on now.
Yeah. And Tom, have you found the same? Has it been difficult for your staff with customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think for everyone, it's just the extra, extra admin, extra paperwork, that we all have to do. And I think, the confusion, for customers coming in, let alone them, it's also us, on what we need to follow through and keep up with. And the 10 p.m. curfew, is difficult because we're only doing a 7 and 10 course tasting menu. We're not doing any a la carte or anything like that. So, we're not turning the tables. So, once you're in there for the evening. So, people want to come in, they want to have an enjoyable night. They don't want to be rushed, but getting them, to have their 10 courses, if our last order is at 7 o'clock, sometimes can be, a bit of a rush. So we have to have all the main courses, finished by, sort of 9 o'clock. And I think, it's just adds more pressure and stress on the hospitality industry already. And as Robin said, it's us that are going to suffer, business-wise, because customers are going to be put off from going out. If there's going to be more regulations and restrictions on what they can and can't do, then they might as well just, stay in and have dinner at home, which is not going to help us at all. And it's just going to really put people from going out and having fun. At the end of the day, it is hospitality. People want to go out and have fun and have a nice time. And when there's more and more that they can and can't do, and making it harder to actually just have fun, then why would they bother? You know what I mean? So I think at some point we've got to really be sensible into saying, okay, right, yes, let's be careful. let's be safe. This is what we can do. This is what makes it work from a business perspective, and let's stick to that. Let's adhere to that, and then do it. And the other thing that I find really quite silly is that of all the countries, that are working really well at this, for example, Italy, and they've proven from turning it around from probably having the highest, infection rate and death rate of one of the European countries, whereas now they're one of the lowest. So I think, we should take a leaf out of their book and see what they're doing and how they're doing, controlling the virus, and just work together. Not that we're really part of Europe much longer, but I mean, at least, speak to each other and communication between different countries and say, right, this is working, this doesn't work, and kind of cross each other references of what's going to happen and what's going to work. That's what I think.
Voting is now open for nominees in the Staff Canteen Awards 2020. There are 6 categories, and the nominees with the most votes will go through to our shortlist. The winner of each shortlist will be decided by you, our audience, and they'll get their hands on a must-have gold mug. Go and take a look at our nominations page and vote for your favourite. Make sure you share on social that you have voted and support your chosen nominee. To vote, go to www.thestaffcanteen.com/TSC-awards. Voting ends on the 3rd of November. Robin, you mentioned that, how do you police it? Like, is it your responsibility? I mean, all you can do is ask people, isn't it? Are you in the same household? And they don't have to tell you the truth if they want to go out for dinner today. So it's a real strange one.
No, and it's funny, just as we're talking, I can just see WhatsApp messages coming up on my team, like kind of going, what do we need to do? We have to get in contact with all of our customers now. And then it's like, well, is it our responsibility, and do we have to message them all? And we have to kind of do our due diligence. So again, it's more work, it's painful. And by customers getting a message from our teams asking you, look, the government has said this is what we need to adhere to. Are you from the same household? You're just going to go, jeez, I'm not going to go out. I'll just cancel. Do you know what I mean? So it's just terrible.
And every time they change the rules, or everything, every time it happens, do you see an instant loss of bookings? Is that something that has just happened straight away?
It does. I definitely, I think everyone does. They just see, people cancelling, and then I think, because it's half term, next week, that people are probably going to stay at home rather than even bothering going out. So, it's just going to make, as I said, it's very tough for businesses to continue when the bookings are just being hammered all the time by more restrictions coming in. And
obviously London tier 2, which we've discussed, but there is the next tier up, which is tier 3. It's even stricter. It's again the non-mixing indoors, and that people can only kind of meet outside in groups of 6, and no non-essential travel. Pubs closed. I think restaurants are staying open in those areas, but pubs and bars are closing. So with that in mind, can hospitality, can they survive if they're placed on that highest level? That seems like you're pushing them to an absolute limit.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think there's without a doubt, it's going to have an effect on the business, how we can operate. It's going to put stress on us financially, which we all know what that means. It's going to have a knock-on effect on more unemployment. And it just depends on how long it goes on for. Like if it's like a week or 2 or something, then maybe, or 3 weeks or something like that, maybe you can ride through it if there's some extra government support, or if there's some grants to the areas, which they kind of mentioned, that would help a little bit. But I think our point is that it's what does it gain? Because it's proven, if you just look at the facts, it's not being spread through restaurants, but yet restaurants have been made to suffer, and it's like, I just think they're going about it all the wrong way. It's not working. So they just need to relook at it. And again, like what Tom said, is look at other countries that are progressing rather than panicking and just and causing confusion to the whole nation. So it's, not great. I mean, the biggest mess up they did was, okay, so we don't want to shove people into a tube, let's say. but by then having a curfew, by kicking everybody out at 10 p.m., we've all seen the videos of like jam-packed trains. So all the restaurants that are operating that have had to follow all the rules and stick to them, and quite responsibly so, I'd say nearly 100% of restaurants that I've ever seen have all followed the rules. So we do all of that, and then with a curfew, then everyone is all forced to leave at the exact same time. It just doesn't make sense. It's so contradictory. So that's going to spread a virus. You can have a perfectly safe environment in restaurants all over the place, and then all of a sudden everyone's shoved into a tight space.
Yeah.
Then it's going to spread, isn't it? So they've just got it wrong. They don't know what they're doing, and they can't make a decision and stick to it.
Tom, what's the mood like in London? Because since everything that's happened, 'cause obviously you know it very well, and pre-COVID and all the rest of it. So what's it like being there now?
Well, it's a lot quieter, that's for sure. You walk the streets, and particularly in the city. We had someone that worked in the city last week, and I was just chatting to him, and he said their office normally has 600. There's now 90 of them there. So I think a lot of people are staying at home who worked in the office, which then obviously has a knock-on effect on on a lot of businesses for lunch times, because there's no business lunches anymore. So a lot of restaurants in London, myself included, are finding lunchtimes more painful than ever before, and lunchtimes are already fairly difficult, but even more so now. There's very sort of slim pickings to have at lunchtimes, and I think people that can stay out of London or are commuting into London obviously aren't anymore. A lot of the transport systems a lot quieter, and again it's having a knock-on effect for us in hospitality. The more people that stay at home obviously means the more people are not going to be going out and having lunch or dinner.
And Robin, obviously you closed the dairy, and then you've got a new site in Bermondsey, but that closure was due to coronavirus and the restrictions, right?
Yeah.
So how was that? Because that must have been heartbreaking. And now I know obviously you've got Bermondsey site, but
yeah, no, big time. I mean, because that's where it all started for us. You got so much history in a place like that, and I always hoped that it was going to survive sort of 10, 15, 20 years. You kind of, yeah, it was like, for us, it was like a family restaurant. A lot of the team were there for a very long time. My wife works there. We had, our son was born in sort of in the middle of it all, and kind of you felt like he kind of grew up in the restaurant as well. And then you make so many friends by being part of a neighborhood restaurant as well. Like, a lot of our customers have become great friends, and yeah, it's just like it was very sad to let it go. Very kind of emotionally attached to the building itself, but I have to say, the team are extremely happy to be in a new space, a new kitchen, new restaurant, and a new bar. And it's given everybody a new lease of life. We've got a brand new menu, and yeah, the guys are kind of like buzzing with it, so it's a positive, actually. It was a real negative, and it's quite sad, but actually, if anything, it's a positive, and it's really cool to be in a new area as well. And we still have Sorella in Clapham. I live in Brixton, so I live around the corner, so at least I'd be devastated if we had to leave the area completely, but at least we still have Sorella. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's kind of exciting, and it was so nice to be sort of welcomed into the neighborhood by all the other sort of great sort of cooks and restaurateurs there. We had like Johnny Lake and the team from Trivet drop in a cake on our first day, and Jose come over to say hello, and Angela's there, and you know what I mean? So yeah. I felt like I was joining a new community, a new neighborhood. So it's been really good. It's been a good result from a negative thing. And the thing is, and that's, I know we've been a bit doom and gloom, but that's also, I think, a lot of great things can come from things like this. If you're a little bit complacent in what you're doing, and you're just kind of trugging along in your job or in your restaurant or in your kitchen, whatever you're doing, sometimes when like the lockdown, I think, happens, a lot of people kind of went into a bit of a like panic, and maybe put their head down and sort of freaked out, maybe got a little bit depressed. And that's the worst thing you can do. I kind of jumped into survival mode, and I noticed Tom did as well, and just started like cooking like crazy, and kind of really back to basics. And you start looking and thinking and reassessing how you do things. And and think about when we reopen and what we do, and rethink everything. And it's almost like a refresher button for a lot of us. And I think that's the way to think. So if things do go down again, I think I'll do my best. I mean, I was quite proud of how I dealt with it all. And that's why I'm so scared of it happening again, because I was like, I don't know if I have it in me to kind of be so positive through it all again, you know? But I think we kind of just you have to crack on, and hopefully something good can come out of it at the end.
Yeah, no, it's nice to hear that kind of positive side. Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in all of the the doom and the gloom, isn't it? So no, it's nice to hear that. And Tom, I spoke to you. I was just saying, just as we've gone into lockdown, and so how has Muse kind of come back, and how much have you had to change and adapt to be able to open as much? I mean, you said the word normal, as normal as you possibly could.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had we had a bit of a, obviously, funny start, because we did a soft launch in December of last year, and then after that we basically opened in January, and then we had 3 months of opening, and then we had to close. So it was a bit of a shame, because we had just had all the really nice reviews, which obviously then puts you up on a good wave of momentum, and that couldn't be followed through. So in a way, you kind of lose a bit of traction on that, because on the back of having really good reviews that everyone sees, you kind of your bookings fill up, and your restaurant is on a high, and and off you go, and your sales are plump full of air, and but we didn't get that. We literally had all the good reviews, and then boom, bring down the shutters. So in a way, when we reopened after the lockdown back in September, is almost like starting again. It's funny, because when you close down a restaurant, it literally takes a couple of days, but when you reopen, it's like a good 2 weeks at least, to get the engines cranked up again, and to get everyone in in that sort of work mode, and and trying to obviously to make it as positive as you can in terms of coming back from lockdown, not knowing what's round the corner again, and the positives of obviously reopening and doing a new menu and everything is great. I mean, the other side of it is we lost a few staff, because again, I think in lockdown, when you've been away from work for a considerable amount of time, you also have a look at yourself, you have a look at your environment, you have a look at your work, you think, is this the thing for me? Do I want to try other things? And I said to a lot of my staff, I said, look, try and use this time wisely, because hopefully we're never going to get it again, where you have a block of time that we've never seen before, where you can actually take up a new hobby, learn something completely new, take up whatever, sport, language, get yourself fit, whatever, because you're going to have a ton of time to be able to do something positive, which obviously a lot of them use their time wisely. But we lost a few of our front of house team, because they just wanted to do something else, something different, but on the upside, we've got some very, very really good strong guys to replace them, and one of them used to work with me before, which is great. So there's always positives on negatives, I think, as well, and it's just trying to always remain upbeat and focused and positive on on those that there are. But I think the next round of whatever is is going to happen next is a tricky one, because we're all in this kind of conundrum of what is going to happen next. And as I said, that's where the confusion starts, and that's when our guests and customers are also questioning should they really be going out, and the government is telling them this and that and that and this, and it just makes it all very, very tough.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked about the curfew, and people in hospitality were backing, to get rid of the curfew. I know they did a vote, but that didn't, the government won, so the curfew staying in place. But the other campaign within hospitality is to get a hospitality minister. So I just wondered if that's something that you're both behind, and you think would make a significant difference when they're making these decisions about the industry.
Yeah, I guess I think they need someone that understands it. Maybe that's kind of the impression a lot of us are getting is that they don't understand how the industry is working, you know, and they've been listening to maybe a lot of industry leaders eventually, but it's like they make a decision and then they go, oops, we probably should have done it another way, you know. So maybe if there was a hospitality minister, then it would be a better representative of our industry.
What do you think?
I just think it's, you know, it's having a spokesperson that the industry trusts, that has got their back, someone that, you know, that is accountable and can obviously have a voice in government, because at the end of the day, there's no point having someone who is not going to be listened to and it's just going to be sort of, you know, put to the side. So we need someone who obviously understands, I guess, the dynamics of politics, and how to really, I guess, you know, strike a path for us and can get our opinions and our points through, because at the minute we don't get a voice, no one listens to us. We are really the ones that are the back of the queue, or we're the guinea pigs, you know, in kind of trying something out. You know, it's always us that get it in the neck every time.
So, I mean, it does feel, I mean, we all work in hospitality, so it does feel like the hospitality industry is kind of taking the brunt of it, particularly financially. So realistically, how much more can it take? And I suppose the second part of the question is, what are you thinking for 2021, or are you just trying to get through 2020 before you think that far ahead?
Well, I think we were all, you know, so sick of 2019, that's for sure. For whatever reasons, there were many, and we were all eternally hopeful. Yay, 2020 is going to be an amazing year. You know, it's a new era, it's a new decade, lots of new hope, and then, you know, bang, crash wallet. So I think, you know, carrying into 2021, I just, you know, I'm not going to sort of, you know, shout from the rooftops and sort of say, yeah, you know, hopeful eternity for 2021. I just think, you know, it's still batten down the hatches and just get through as much as you can, you know, basically, because I don't think it's going to get any easier. You know, the optimism of anything, you know, for us in this industry is just, I think, trying to get through and make ends meet, you know, make the businesses as strong as they can be, you know, to get through the hard months of January and February, which we all know, you know, are a little bit quieter than normal.
Robin, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, eh? I think, yeah, you've got to be more hopeful for 2021, you know, because, like, yeah, 19 wasn't great. 20, I had massive hopes for it. Ironically, like, I was supposed to go out and judge a competition in Dubai just before lockdown happened, and I managed to be able to get turn into like a bit of a family break, and loads of things were looking up for me for 2020. And on the way out, myself and my wife were cheersing and going, let's look forward to a great year, blah, blah, blah. And then we just watched the news unfold, and it was just coming back going like shell-shocked, having to shut everything down. So that's just been, that, you know, that for me, that kind of totally sums up 2020. You think you're on a trajectory and it's going to be great, and then it's just a massive crash. So I'm just taking everything as it comes and just trying to have to deal with it. I'm still going to be positive, though. I think that I'm going to slow down as far as openings and things like that. Though I think I just want to consolidate, you know, kind of keep going where I'm going and try to progress the businesses and survive as well as I can. But I certainly think I'll probably slow down a little bit and just wait and see what happens for 2021. You know, I think that's going to be my goal. I want to try and, you know, get a bit more of a balance, because I have to say, like, you know, even during lockdown, I was still working like my ass off. We kept Derby's open, and we were like doing meals for people to finish at home and turn into a bakery and a butcher shop and things like that. And like, I did get to see my family a little bit more. But right now it's like, it's full on survival and really attacking the businesses. And I'm working harder than I've ever worked before. So for 2021, I want to try and get a bit more of a balance back and, you know, enjoy the restaurants and not be stressed about it. That's my goal.
And then Tom, you mentioned when I said how you know each other, so it's like through the, you know, like the community of chefs, you all know each other. You know, it is a very close knit industry. So how does it feel seeing, you know, people who aren't able to get through it, that haven't survived, they've had to close, who've made those decisions. What's that like? Because it does affect everybody, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, I mean, it's it's the worst thing ever. It's horrible. To have to make that decision, but then the closure of a restaurant affects so many members of other staff as well. It's not just closing the doors is then affecting other people's livelihoods. And as we're aware, it's now, I think, very difficult, for jobs, job security, and people in this industry. And I think, having a job in this industry, is amazing. But we're on the threshold, I think, of a few more, places probably making the decision, before Christmas, should I, shouldn't I, will I, won't I be closing? And I think, the sad factor is that the unknowns of what we're going into, and Christmas, as we all know, is the bumper part of the year. And whereas, this time around, there's not going to be any Christmas parties. There's no particular events, there's no banqueting for hotels or anything like that. So, what could have been an end, to the year as a bit more positive really isn't. And it's just about, as I said, battling down the hatches and being, quite ruthless in terms of sticking to what you know and what you can do, to keep your business going.
Robin, how does it make you feel? You must have friends that you talk to that it's quite sad, isn't it?
Do you know what? First thing was like shock, because there's been some big names, kind of household names and restaurants that you've seen that are not here anymore, and it's like that is just an absolute shock. And I think it's really sad. You just think that some places are just kind of indestructible. So, and it just goes to show how fragile the whole business is really, and how we're all kind of like sort of food to mouth in many ways. And when there's something big like this happens, we're always the first to kind of suffer and first to go. So yeah, I mean, I think, and it is, we are like a community, and we do all kind of look out for each other. I think the only saving grace is that, I don't know, in a weird way, I think anyone that's had to close, I certainly felt that I didn't feel ashamed that we closed the dairy. I was more proud, and I felt a huge sense of the restaurant community, and from our previous guests, like outpour of messages and stuff that we got was really kind of was incredible. And I think because we are in this sort of pandemic, you're not ashamed. You're kind of more like, well, you kind of, we're all in this together. That's the only kind of good thing about it, is that, I don't know, let's say we're in the middle, there was this pandemic and I closed. I'd probably be really embarrassed, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't run my business correctly, or people just didn't come anymore. Maybe I wasn't cooking as well as I used to. Do you know what I mean? And that's really hard, because when you close a restaurant, that's how you feel. It's devastating. You're kind of ashamed, and you think other people think you failed. Whereas the one saving grace is that we're all in this together. We're all going through a shit time. And when someone goes, it's more like, oh man, what can we do? And the people are reaching out and saying, oh, are you okay? As opposed to judging, so that's a positive in many ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to finish on a bit of a lighter note, Tom, we've mentioned that Robin's obviously done his night, but you've got some more guest chef nights coming up. So can people still book those? Are there still tables available? And how do they do that?
We've still got a couple of tables left, yeah. So just go onto the website. All the details are on there. I think we've got a 4 and a 2 left. So need to book very soon. But no, I mean, looking forward to it. And Alex is obviously a great chef, and looking forward to cooking with him.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you both so much for talking to me, and good luck with everything and getting your heads around the next set of rules that we've all got to adhere to. And hopefully next time I speak to you, it'll be a bit more positive time.
Yeah.
Great.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download.
And if you want to support us to continue creating great content with amazing people from the hospitality industry, please take a look at our contribution scheme on www.thestaffcanteen.com.
This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.